There's a build unusual, with the team from interstate being a participant for the first time. Even the now traditional Melbourne live telecast in the earlier part of the week wasn't a certainty. At the Perth end, the build-up for the Eagles began virtually when they arrived home on Sunday. A huge crowd greeted the team at the airport, prompting a clampdown by Mick Malthouse on any media involvement by players during the week. On the track, all attention was on dynamic wingman Chris Mainwaring, who hasn't played for over a month. He came through a searching fitness test, though, and was selected in the 20. But after beating Geelong at VFL Park, the Eagles are confident that they can now take out the big one. They're unbeaten at Waverley this year, winning 5 out of 5, but Malthouse believes Hawthorn will start favourites.
Perhaps Hawthorn go into the favourites. All we do is go in with the knowledge that we can, and have done over the year, is given our best shot. If that's good enough to win it. If it's not, then perhaps we've got to look at our side. But if it's good enough, or it's not good enough, then long as you give 100%, I'm sure that all the public, and I know the players, all they want to do is give that.
At Glenferrie, the Hawks adopted a more open approach. Their players were available for media commitments as they went through their grand final preparations for the 8th time in 9 years. Chris Mew was their man under the microscope, and like Mainwaring, he too was past fit to play. Friday's grand final parade did perhaps lack a little colour, with only Hawthorn participating, but the Hawks lapped it up. As one fan put it, even Collingwood supporters will be behind them today. Coach Alan Joyce believes it'll be a very physical encounter.
Grand finals are tough affairs, and I think, it certainly will be. I think it's, everyone's anxious to do well early and get on top, so, it'll be a tough contest.
Toughest of all jobs, though, could be that of fullback Chris Langford. The Hawk defender has the task of trying to stop Eagles ace Peter Sumich, and he's hoping for some help.
Sumich is a good player, and he's a good lead, and they really hit the ball well to him. And I guess I've just got to hope that there's a lot of pressure up the ground, make my life a bit easier, and just play as tight as I can. I always play my own game and just go from the front and try and cut his leads off.
And for Captain Michael Tuck, it's yet another milestone. It'll be his 39th final and 11th grand final. At Glenferrie, they'd love to win it, just for Tucky.
Well, the Hawks with all the final ever played out here, because long-term contract has been signed at the MCG, and when the Southern Stand is completed, we'll be back there next year. Into the Hawthorn rooms, well, they've done this 8 times in the last 9 years, grand final. That's a pretty jam-packed looking crowd here for the 1991 grand final, and will the Eagles be able to create a bit of history like the Bears did in the reserves? Keith Gregg, dual Brownlow medal winner. He's out there in the grandstand, and there's a big crowd indeed for this game, the big day of the year in football.
Screens. And while I'm at it, I must give a special cheerio to the hundreds of thousands of Perth people out watching the Eagles today, hoping that they can pull off the big one. I can tell you that the Perth streets are deserted. It's a beautiful day here, Drew. The beaches are actually deserted. The streets are deserted. Everybody is sitting in front of the telly, hoping the Eagles can pull off, well, the historic grand final win.
On the Bears!
On the Bears. Well, the Eagles have got their share of fans over here in Melbourne too, because even though people could stay at home and sit and watch it live on television, plenty have come across to Melbourne to see what they hope will be their moment in history. And, well...
Unbelievable!
Donotti in front. Charged straight at it like an Olympic sprinter.
Fitzroy doing it well. Oh, they'll bring the joint down now.
Jarman, great skills.
It's a magnificent play.
Allison.
The Tigers are on fire.
He's got the football. Look at this. Crash, bang, wallop.
Well, the magic is back in the Harbour City. Matera, this could be something superb.
They dominated the 70s and set new marks in toughness and endurance in the 80s. Now Hawthorn moves into a new era, ready to take on the young challengers. But the stands that rang with 100,000 voices are silent. The Melbourne Cricket Ground is empty and eerie as the old girl gets a long-awaited facelift. For the first time since the war years, the biggest crowd in Australian sport is elsewhere. At the foot of the Dandenong Ranges, in the population centre of suburban Melbourne, lies VFL Park, a stadium that will today celebrate its 21st birthday with its proudest moment. A torrid encounter between East and West, between a Hawthorn side that has won 8 premierships since it arrived as a power in 1961 after years of heartbreak. And for the first time, a team from the West Coast, a team that has dominated the competition in 1991, only to fall to Hawthorn in its first really big test on week 1 of the finals. Today they meet again, the Hawks of Hawthorn, proud and haughty, against the Eagles of the West Coast, brash young pretenders to the throne. They meet on this last Saturday in September in the 1991 AFL Grand Final.
And good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to 7 Sports live and exclusive coverage of the 1991 AFL Grand Final. Coming to you from VFL Park, Waverley in Melbourne, Victoria. Wherever you're watching around the world, we certainly hope that you're going to enjoy it. We have almost a capacity crowd of around 77,000 fans here this afternoon, and I welcome our viewers through England, Ireland, the United States, Japan, Canada, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, and last but by no means least, the people of Nauru. Wherever you may be watching, sit back, relax, and enjoy a piece of history, because this country of ours is divided today. The West Coast Eagles, after 5 years, have made it through to their first grand final, and they're up against the experienced old stagers, Hawthorn, playing in their 8th grand final and going for their 8th in 9 years. Quite an outstanding achievement by the Hawks. This has become commonplace over the past several decades. It's interesting to look at how both sides made it through to the grand final. The Eagles, we're in their rooms at the moment. They had a couple of minor